2023, Town of Northborough Board of Health, and we're going to jump right into it. We're going to go right in order. We've got the renewal of the variance request from lifeguard requirements at the North Court Pool. Anyone here for that?
Yes. So
Good. Let's just step on up and introduce yourself. Now, you're the same gentleman who was here last year?
Yes. Yes. So my name is Jake Ruskowski. I am the pool chairperson for North Court Swim and Tennis. This year is our 60th anniversary, so we've been around for 60 years. I didn't even know that until our family meeting this week, but we have 60 years. Last year, we were pleased to be granted the variance that allows us to have non-lifeguard hours at our pool. That's something that the 60 prior years of existence was available at the pool. And what the request for the variance is that we typically have lifeguards during the very busy hours when we have the vast majority of the families using it. It's 52 member families in the pool. And basically what it is it allows 52 families in Northborough the opportunity to have a pool that would otherwise not be affordable. If you just imagine the cost of having, it's roughly $80,000 to put a pool in-ground pool. So we have this wonderful pool, and the agreement was that we typically have the lifeguards 9 to 4 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday, and that represents the vast majority of when most of the users use the pool. The variance applies to the hours after that when we only have a few people using the pool. There might be 1 or 2 families there between the hours of 4 and 8. Pool closes at sunset.
That's when all the drowning takes place.
No, sir.
Kidding.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know my position on it, but
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. My position's always been, I like the lifeguard being there, but last year you came in, you said your piece. You said your piece a couple times. You did a good job. No incidents.
No incidents. We meet with the fire department annually to go over any emergency conditions. They asked us to put up additional signage, which we did, mark off fire lanes for emergency vehicles. We've worked with Kristen. We have roughly, I would probably guess by the time this pool season starts, 60% of our member families will be CPR certified, which was one of the requests that was done. I myself are taking my re-up certification on the 16th coming up.
Those are really good numbers, 60%? Because of this?
Yes.
Wow.
Because we wanted, people obviously
60% of 50 is
want to be able to use the pool. There are families that just don't use it after hours because they have baseball, they have, summer sports, whatever. But for a lot of people that have co-parents that are working 9 to 5, it's really essential. And it's just, there's not an availability of lifeguards to work at those hours. We're fortunate enough, we actually had to, we have somebody come in and train our lifeguards. That's what we did last year. He's a YMCA certified trainer. He works with the camps, and he'll be training the individuals that will be our lifeguards this year as well. So, but yes, we have a high percentage of CPR certified people, and everyone has the understanding that the way it works at North Court is that it's the parents' responsibility first. The lifeguards are a backstop there. It's different than what you would find at a YMCA where you have kids running around and the parents are chit-chatting. Our pool's 30 feet by 60 feet. There's no obstructions, clear visibility from any angle. Every family member knows that the requirement is that an adult must be in the pool area. If an adult needs to use the bathroom, what they have to do is they have to go out, bring their children out, lock the gate so that they cannot come in until they're able to come back in. And it's been that way. I've been a member, my family's been a member for 6 years, and we observe that religiously to make sure that the pool stays safe. There's nobody that wants any harm to come to any of our kids.
Of course.
The lifeguards are there for, like I said, they're a backstop. They do swim training for all the young kids. We have swim training that starts at age 5, up to, I believe it's 12 or 13. We have half-hour classes for that every Monday through Friday, and the kids really enjoy it. They learn a lot. My son's progressed so much in the last couple of years. He used to be afraid of the water. Now he loves it. But it's also at the same time, it's crucial that if you want kids to get better at swimming, they need to get in the pool when the pool is available. And to say that we can no longer swim after 5 p.m. because we simply can't have a lifeguard there when there might be one family in that 3-hour interval or 2 families.
Yeah.
It's, then it falls on the parents. And generally what we do is, a couple parents will call up and say, hey, we're going to the pool, do you want to go over? And we might have 3 or 4 families. I would say the ratio is typically almost a 1-to-1 ratio with adult to a child at that pool. So again, if anybody's been members in the past, whatever, it's a wonderful experience. There was several selectmen. Our former town administrator was a past member, John. So we've had, quite a few people.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. Is there an indemnification agreement or a clause or anything for the town of Northborough on this
It's
one?
all privately owned, so it's really up to the Board of Health, the jurisdiction, to approve any
Did we
variance. from
require
the
that
request.
last year? I know it
There
came
was a
up.
question about the insurance and that your insurer
We
was
are insured,
comfortable
yes.
with that, because there was discussion last year over the signage. So to, just further clarify, I know you all have copies, and Jake, you submitted that to me yesterday, you had emailed.
Yes.
And so you all have a copy, so the board may have not had enough time to go through it. I just had a couple questions, through the chair, if you're okay.
Sure.
I just want to clarify, we had very extensive discussions last year, and we really appreciate all the effort Northcourt has made to try to make it safe and meet the board's requirements. I noticed a couple things from your updated request versus what we talked about last year, and part of it, maybe we weren't super clear in how we worded it, but I just want to clarify, last year, if you remember, we voted the variance for the set hours, and you're asking for the same set hours, right? So there's no change to the hours. So you're asking for variance on the hours during the busy season. I can get to that next. And I did give you guys like a draft motion, so we'd sort of be clear as to what we might be talking about here. And just looking at the time, so you're saying you wouldn't have a lifeguard available the 4 p.m. to 8:30, the less busy times. When the board voted it last time, they talked about having an adult who's CPR trained to sort of be a pool attendant. And there was a discussion of that person not supervising more than 10 swimmers at any one time. Are you still agreeable to that cap?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
see it
that-
in your
There, I would say there would never be a circumstance where that would be allowed in a pool. For one thing, members are only allowed to have up to 5 guests, so it would be very difficult to, and it's not, we do not have large parties there. If you have a party, you're required to have lifeguards.
Okay.
So,
the other point of clarification, you had in writing CPR and first aid, but I think we just want to clarify, last year we just required CPR certification, which is what most of your members, because the first aid's a lot more time, and I don't think.
it's
Like
the
AEDs,
YMCA,
Yeah.
or sorry, the Red Cross, I would have to see
I think there's a CPR AD. If they've been doing through the Be Well program, like you mentioned,
Okay.
it's the American
Yeah.
Heart Association. You said some of your members went to our training, so that just to clarify, it's CPR AD. And then you talk about, the window, and I know it's always been this way, where you don't get the lifeguards in until like the season really kicks off, but you
Yes.
may have members swimming, so before then. So what is your opening date you're proposing?
So typically, we open on Memorial Day weekend is the official opening of the season, and we do have lifeguards on those weekends. Since the majority of the lifeguards are either college students or high school students, obviously they can't work until their school terms are over. This year, it just so happens that the lifeguards that we have 1 college student, and I believe it's 3 high school students. So the high school students will not start full-time. The pool is very sparingly used.
Because it's cold.
It's 56 degrees right now, the water temperature. And it doesn't tend to get up into the 60s until the middle of June. So
Okay.
it's not used very much until the end of the school year.
So if we were to move the board along and just having a clear motion, because it seems like that pre-period you're asking for a variance because it's sparse with the pool attendant. So
Yeah.
school lets out
And
on
that-
the 22nd. So
And that
would we
wasn't
say that-
applicable last year because our
was
variance
so
didn't
late.
start until July,
So
so.
if we were to say this year, would you say June 23rd, that's the day after school lets out? Is that like when you'd start with the lifeguards?
No, the lifeguards start on weekends, on
Weekends?
Memorial Day weekend.
Okay,
So that's, that's when the bulk of people, if they're gonna use it, they're gonna use it on the weekend because,
Yeah.
because of school, nobody's really
Okay.
using it on the weekdays until school's over.
okay. So you'd start life kids midweek and like the last week in June after school's let out?
At that point, yes,
23rd,
they
let's
start,
say.
they start Monday through Friday and Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay. And then when does the pool close? Like, when would you stop?
The pool
lifeguard
closes
stuff?
Labor Day.
Okay.
The lifeguard that is a college student would, at some point in August, return to college, but we would still have the high schoolers until until school starts, so.
Okay, so the midweek
So it's typically,
coverage-
the last open weekend is generally Labor Day weekend, so
Okay,
on that Monday.
and the
is-
last day of lifeguard coverage during the week would be what day approximately?
Of normal coverage?
Yeah.
I'd have to look and see when the school term starts for fall this year. Because we would expect that the lifeguards that we currently have employed would stay on until
Okay.
that period.
So we could just generically, if the board were to make a motion, you could say, during the school summer break, or something like that, weekend coverage.
College you're talking about, college?
Or like, no, the
Usually
Northborough
starts.
Public School calendar, or something like that, is
Okay.
what it sounds like, okay. Those are
So as far as the motion that he's looking for today,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same motion that he was approved last year, except for the date, specific date changes or what we're dealing with right now.
yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in again this year, appreciate
Yeah.
it. In your write-up, you indicate that the families are encouraged to take the Red Cross Water Safety Program,
Yes.
but they're not required to.
They're not required. We ask that everybody do it. There's really, I don't have an enforceable mechanism to,
Okay.
to say that. We're not gonna ask everybody to do that. I took it. It's a very short course, and I found it extremely informative. So I recommended it. We had our annual meeting this past Sunday, and I advised everybody to take it. We do ask all new members to take it. It's just the current members that I can't really enforce that they.
Is that through the Be Well program?
We've been
That's
funding
CPR?
half of it through the Be Well, like offsetting the full
Great.
cost of the program.
Yeah, and that
So that's
course is
different than the
different
CPR, yeah. That is just a pool safety course
Yeah, this one,
for families and
yeah,
caregivers.
this one's an online course.
So
The water
it's
safety
about,
course is
yeah,
online.
I want to say it was a 45 minutes of
Yeah.
tutorials
The
and,
AED, the CPR first aid
That's a
course
separate,
rather
yes.
is separate. And so new families are being asked to take that
Yes.
class. at
yes.
Palm
Now,
Beach.
if they choose to not swim after, when there's non-lifeguard hours, we're not requiring families to do that. But they all have the understanding that at 4 o'clock to dusk, it's, if they're there, somebody has to be trained. Just one, if there's 2 parents, one.
Right, and,
So.
and you guys keep a list somewhere, you've seen the certifications.
Yes.
The training's been completed and the expiration dates and all that,
Mhm.
so you know all that.
I don't know that I have the expiration dates. I would have to check on that.
Okay, all right, that's all I have, thanks.
Anything down there? No? Are we ready on this end, Kristen?
Last year, we didn't have the clearest motion. I think it just led to some confusion, so I tried to draft it a little cleaner.
Yeah.
Can I run a draft motion by you,
Please.
so we're all clear?
The board will entertain
Yeah, let me see
the
if I.
reading of the motion and also entertain the motion being
So moved.
so moved.
So, I'm just checking, because we originally tried to break it in 2 parts, but a draft motion, or propose a motion to approve the variance request for the lifeguard requirement for North Court Swim and Tennis Association as follows. For the public school summer break and for weekends outside of the school calendar, the lifeguard requirement is waived between the hours of 4 PM to 8:30 PM, provided that a pool attendant who is 18 years of older and current on CPR certifications is present for every 10 swimmers. Does that,
Yeah,
That would
Meet your-
satisfy, yes.
Okay.
definitely, yeah.
so I think we need to simplify it.
that's it?
Yeah, we don't have to get that complicated, that simplifies it.
Okay.
So moved.
All those in favor? Have a safe season.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you for
Jake.
coming in.
We'll send you a quick email just so it's official and documented before the minutes come
I
out.
really appreciate it.
Okay, moving on. We're gonna go with the local upgrade approval. 36 East Main Street. Seeking C3 variances. Reduction in the property line setback from the road. It's required 10 feet, looking for a 6-footer. Reduction in the property line setbacks from the abutter. 10 feet required to 6-footer. And reduction in the setbacks from the foundation from 20 feet to the 14-foot proposed. And let's hear the hardships.
Okay, Vito Colonna, Cornerstone Engineering. I can lay the,
Yeah,
I have a
one-
plan.
Oh,
Colonna's a little color
look what we get.
on it. Yeah, you can see a little better on it,
Oh, this one's a color.
maybe. Color on there.
Good,
Uh,
thank you.
So it's a very small lot. It's a 50-foot wide by 100-foot deep, with an existing house on it and a shed in the back. So we have very limited space
Yeah.
on what we can fit out there. They have a failed cesspool in the front that collapsed, so that's
Oh.
in need of replacement. So we did the testing out there. It's good soils. It's all sand, less than 2 minute an inch rate. So we kept it as small as we possibly could. We used a galley, which creates the smallest footprint possible for the size of the system and the flow rate that we need. We did look at alternative systems, but those actually wouldn't get any smaller just because you usually need 400 square feet for an alternative system, and that one's only 302 square feet. So it's really the smallest system we can make. And we tried to balance the setbacks from the foundation and the property line. So we kind of asked for both variances, but we kind of split the
Yeah.
difference between the two.
We really have not had a problem with the variance from the road.
Mhm.
You know, it's understandable, and it's a road.
And DPW, sorry, Mr. Chair, DPW has reviewed this and is comfortable with the setback to the road.
Excellent. The problem that I always have is with the abutter, you know?
Oh.
Good. So there's no problem with the current abutter. Problem is someday when you move on,
I'm never leaving.
never.
Been here for 34 years, I'm never leaving.
Okay. So we put something, a deed recording or something? Or
This,
we just leave that alone?
yeah, no, we've done it before. You know, it is allowed, so, you know, Vito, with Cornerstone Engineering has followed the Title V requirements of requesting a local upgrade approval. And there's, you know, a set you work through in
Yeah.
order of preference, and the first thing to always look at is reduction in setbacks to, you know, property lines, et cetera. So
Yeah.
I really feel like in my review, I mean, when we went to the site, and I do wanna set the
it's
scene that it isn't, it's nearly an emergency repair.
Okay,
This is a
yeah.
very small property right on the road, not even, you're looking for the driveway, it doesn't exist. This is a
Right.
really tight lot. You know, luckily there's a water service that's coming in straight in, so that knocks out, you know, that very small front lawn area. It was a cesspool to a second overflow cesspool. And the second cesspool has failed and totally collapsed. And we actually ended up with an emergency call from the DPW that was called out to secure the site. And so it's definitely, you know, it would have been an emergency repair and not come here, except for the property line setback with the
Yeah.
abutter. We never want to just run through that process.
Right.
And so I really, you know, given all the site limitations, they sort of gave a little bit wherever they could. Although you're doing the setback from the foundation, it includes a barrier.
We didn't put one in, but we could add that.
That's my question on,
Yep.
on
Yeah.
that.
So anything less than 20, we could require for a barrier to be added, which is just one layer of protection.
Yeah.
But for the property line setback, when our abutter here, there's no house right next to it. I mean, what the next door use, it's really an open access drive. I mean,
Completely open next door.
yeah. And,
Okay, so
and it's vegetated and, you know, and this
Good.
wouldn't impact their use in any way. The structure's
That's the
stable.
lot right there.
okay.
And luckily, this isn't a fill system, so there's no
So-
grading
But
going
that's
down towards the
Chet's
butter.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
nice and
Chet's.
flat.
Yeah.
So I know where we are.
Yeah, that's,
Hey, you know, everybody knows Chet.
yeah.
Well, I know the house now.
That's the back entrance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then when you look at the back of the property, they
the
did
ball,
put in,
the Police department's, where's the police department?
It's up here and down the street.
Okay, all right, yep.
and the back of the property, if you were to talk about relocating it to the back, again, that's limited with a very large, is it a pine, balsam?
Spruce.
Spruce, what do we have? Very large, and they just put in a beautiful patio, stone area out the small area of the backyard, so if you were to try to chase property lines, that would require rerouting plumbing and ripping out the only finished living space they have off the back of the lot, so.
Must be a shed back there.
Yeah, you know, there's so many this is yeah, I think when we were out there, we're counting the number of variances we were anticipating
Yeah.
we'd see with this one, so. Either way, it's a cesspool now, which
Yeah.
doesn't really provide for treatment, you know, that we would see at these standards. The galley will be much improved. You know, there's no setbacks to, groundwater, so regarding protecting groundwater and the environment, I think it's adequate.
Yeah?
There will be a two-bedroom deed restriction, so it is a very small property, there's no
Yeah.
room to upgrade, nor are they proposing it. You know, it's an older historical home, and so there will be a requirement to just, anytime we do a two-bedroom, we just require the deed restriction. So I guess the only change proposed from the plan before you would be adding the barrier.
Yep.
Given that you're within 20 feet of the foundation.
Very good. Do we have the abutter?
Hey, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a younger couple.
Can you get him?
Fine. Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah, we're good.
All right, all right. Well, that's good. So we got three, and I think, any questions on this one? No. The chair will entertain a motion from the board.
Want me to do it? Yes. All right. I move to approve the local upgrade approval request for 36, is that 36 East Main Street as proposed with the inclusion of the deed restriction.
And barrier.
And the
Barrier.
barrier.
Second that?
I will second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you,
Job
Vito.
well done. Thank you for coming in.
Keep up the good work.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Off the baseball practice.
I know how it is.
Thank you.
Public hearing.
We haven't had one of these
We're ready.
since I've been here. I
No.
don't think.
I don't think we have.
So we do
I'm
have.
starting to get a tick.
So, I give you a quick update, so the revised regulations, we reviewed the model regulations at our last Board of Health meeting. The board expressed some interest in certain items being changed. Michael's worked diligently to make those changes and post a draft regulation to the website, and that was posted in the Telegram and Gazette for 2 consecutive weeks prior to this. So, I guess it is time to take comment from the public if we have any, but we should officially have a motion to open the public hearing.
Can I ask a procedure question?
Yes.
I actually read this end to end and have some questions and comments myself.
I do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something we do before we open it? Or
I think we could open, we do have Sarah McColgan, who's with MHOA, so she could speak to it. I mean, at any point, we could discuss those other revisions that came through very late, well, just yesterday from town council that we had to incorporate in are present with you here now. So I would say we could do the public hearing process and solicit that input from the public. We can either keep that open and continue it to our next meeting, or if we feel like the opportunity for the full process is the public has the ability to comment. Angie had emailed the draft regulation link and information to all of our tobacco retailers last week, letting them know that this would be discussed at tonight's meeting, providing them the link to the copy. So if we want to check the box on the public process, we could
Right.
take that, and then we could discuss this week, we could continue discussion to next week, but procedurally, we could meet the public hearing requirement
Right.
first, if we like, you know?
I think that's what we
That
should
would
be
be my
doing.
recommendation.
That's what we should be doing.
Okay.
And then we get the 2 doctors in. Because otherwise,
Yep.
there could be trouble. Trouble or ruin. In any event, okay, I'm gonna move that we open this, section of the meeting for a public hearing with regards to revision to the regulations of the Northborough Board of Health restricting the sale and use of tobacco products and nicotine delivery products. This would be regulating the sale and use as opposed to restricting?
Well, that is the original way our regulation is worded. So it was posted with the notice, it's a revision to, because that's the exact title of our existing regulation in that draft motion, but I believe it was shortened in Michael's draft here, so the long title is proposed to be shortened to Regulation of the Northborough Board of Health restricting the sale and use of tobacco products, because tobacco products in the updated model draft are defined to include other products, so we don't have to make such a wordy, lengthy title of our regulation.
I have a problem, my problem is with the word restricting as opposed to regulating. Am I wrong on that? Do we have to change the whole?
It's a regulation of, so we have the word regulation in there as well as
Regulation's
restriction.
fine.
Yeah,
All right. I just think restricting is kind of it's a done deal. There we go. But we will continue on. All right, does anyone second that rather long? Can you cut that down?
I was waiting for you to be done.
I'm done.
Second.
All right. So,
All in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So why don't Michael take this one? Open up for us.
any other updates? And we're gonna pick on Sarah at some point here too, so don't let her get out of it.
Here to answer questions. No, I appreciate the time. So as you all have already seen the draft regulations, we went over and made some of the changes that you folks discussed. As we said, the majority of the first 8 pages or so, sorry, 6 or 7 pages were mostly definition changes. Nothing new was there. The first thing that we had discussed that we needed to make a final determination on whether we were going to do it, and certainly the number, was if we wanted to cap the current number of tobacco permits.
Okay.
As of now, there are 15 active permits in town. You have, somewhere in your folder, you have a map of them. They're in, appears to be 3 or 4 little clusters, and a couple outliers as well. And we have a 16th that wants to open something, but is trying to find a location. So we do not have a current application in, we just have someone interested. The suggestion that we had heard was a general 1 permit for every 1,000 residents of the town. We have around 15,000 residents, so 15 is a good number. 16 would accommodate the person who's looking.
So cap at 15. And we have, currently, the town has 15.
Or if you want to allow for that other person potentially for the 16.
Is there a wait list already
We
formed?
do not have a wait list at all.
So it would be our first.
Or we have, instead of
excuse
saying 15, cap at 1 for every 1,000 people, is that what you said?
That's what the recommendation would be, but I'm not sure we could say.
Or can Sarah speak to that? Our
You
current,
don't say that in your recommendation, because if your population took a major increase or a major decrease,
Decrease,
you don't wanna,
right.
be putting a business out of business.
that's a,
We're
So-
just trying to avoid, in a town the size of yours, 40 tobacco vendors.
Sarah, would you come up and sit? I don't think we're done hearing your you might continue to educate us, so if you could sit
Right.
here, we could share the microphone. Thank you.
So that was the first major point that would need to be discussed and decided upon.
So, my opinion on that is the town hasn't had a cap, correct?
Correct.
And we're at 15. And it's been free range, sell them if you want it.
Correct.
I don't like the cap, my position I don't like the cap because I think it's limiting entrepreneurship, if you will, or business, if you will. So I personally don't like it. But you're gonna find that with me a lot in this particular discussion. Anyone else have an opinion on capping?
I think we need to consider capping it to be in line with state regulations in terms of, our mission as a board is to protect and to promote health. Anything tobacco related is anti-health. So we are pro-business. We are anti-restriction for everything that's good for our community. But you can't say, with the evidence we have in 2023, that tobacco is good for our community. So for that reason,
That was
Yeah.
very well put.
Very well worded.
Very well put. Okay. Anyone else have a comment about capping?
I'm gonna concur with that, because it was so well
I
said.
actually have to concur with it too. I'm not gonna fight her on the cap. I think the cap is okay at this point,
So
in my opinion.
our current census, according to 2021, is like 15,667 individuals. Just FYI. So make a decision as we move forward, the regulation is it the number 15 or is the number 16? The individual that's inquired with potential
Yeah.
has yet to identify a location.
I would say 15.
15.
So they identify a location, then they can't get it. They can't sell cigarettes.
They can sell something else that's healthy for our community.
Bananas? What if they wanna sell cigarettes?
They can open a gym. They can sell vitamins.
See. Can we put the cap at
How many tobacco vendors does one town need?
as many as it can handle?
We do cap alcohol in town,
We do.
yes.
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we do. And actually,
I think cigarettes and alcohol are apples and oranges, or bananas and oranges.
they are. Alcohol actually being,
Way worse, but that's why we cap.
depends on your perspective, right? If I have 1 or 2 drinks a day, I'm not gonna develop cancer and die from that unless
No,
I'm
that's-
predisposed to something. But with nicotine, I could kill myself and the person next to me.
I think we all can agree on the negative impact on health in the community caused from cigarettes and any smoking or nicotine delivery product. It's just a matter of free business versus, but we're already allowing cigarette sales.
Right, but we are a board of health. We're not the business development office. And as a result of that, we have to do what's best for the public health in our community, not what's best for the development of business in the community.
Don't we have a liaison from the selectman's office? Do we have that anymore?
Not anymore. No,
We
well,
used to.
no, we will. It was Scott Rogers.
Yeah.
And Scott, his term is ended. Well, no, he's voting today.
Today's election
so-
day.
we will be appointed a new liaison. But we're
Sure
just
use
worried
them here
about,
right around now, but
Scott wouldn't have helped you in this
Maybe he's
regard.
listening,
No.
maybe he's listening at home and will call in.
maybe.
And what is it about our town that's attracting tobacco? Is it easy to get in? And we want to attract businesses that are really healthy for our community and are going to bring in good tax dollars. Tobacco is a dirty way of doing it. It has been for years, and I think if we ignore that as a Board of Health, we're not doing our due diligence for our constituents or our town.
There are a few sentences that were added by the town council that address this more, certainly more as a health issue. Studies have also shown the limitations on the number of tobacco retailers have a positive effect on reducing youth smoking rates. Communities that are densely populated with tobacco retailers make it easier for youth to obtain tobacco products because retail outlets are a key marketing channel for tobacco products. And there's a couple paragraphs that add to that. So it's not purely restricting the adults, it's the access to youths.
Michael, what page? Those were
That is
recent
on the
additions
second
by town
or
council.
page 3
so the
officially.
last,
Page
Okay.
They're in purple. So as you're looking through that, anything that is in purple was added by town council over the last few days.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Suggestions too.
Yeah.
Well, you captured their attention, Mike. And the next big point of
Yeah, let's
Moving on.
move on.
We had also discussed about density of retailers. We agreed potentially to keep no permits within 500 feet of schools. We'll leave that in there even though it's not a concern, everything's over 1,000 feet.
Right.
But it's not a bad thing to have it in there, and as the future goes, who knows what'll happen. We had also discussed keeping them, so as, I think as Lisa mentioned, to not have a tobacco row with retailer after retailer by doing 500 feet between other retailers. Once I put it on a map, I realized that 6 pairs of our current retailers are already within 500 feet of each other. So the challenge with adopting that is that if any of them went out of business or sold, they wouldn't be able to have a new permit.
Right.
So we left it in there so you could see it, but we are advising against it.
Because
Given
we
our
are-
current density.
Because we're limiting the number, potentially limiting the number
Right.
anyway, so.
And that would be very limiting to the space, so you know some of our small tobacco retailers, you know, so if they go out and they change ownership, we would say, I'm sorry, that can never be a tobacco again because you have a competitor next door. So I think you would directly impact,
Yeah,
you know, we have, what, how many pairs? At least
6
six?
pairs.
Two, yeah.
And certainly downtown with the gas stations, there's 3 within 350
I think our
feet of
better
each other.
goal is to hit the cap than to worry about how
Agreed.
close they are, you know, so
I
I
think
just
so.
worry about the existence of so much overlap.
Good.
So then,
So I got my way on that one.
well, your favorite's next.
Okay.
The Northborough Health Department is proposing a ban on smoking bars to be added to the
I'm
regulation.
smoking what?
Smoking
Oh,
bars.
yeah. Again, the same thing. It's a free enterprise with a, when we first passed the smoking regulations in all restaurants, all public places, you could have smoking, but you had to have a negative airflow system installed. And that was Governor Romney, I think, is the one who suggested that. All boards took over, and we went through heck with that one, because as you can imagine, the expenses of putting in that system for all the restaurants, and then, of course, the state came in and said, hey, by the way, don't worry about it, we're banning it, and everybody put those in, too bad. In a smoking bar, could it be a requirement that they have the negative airflow? Or is this just going back with the no smoking bar because it's bad for people? If people want to smoke cigars, then they should go out in the woods by themselves and smoke cigars, because you can't smoke cigars in a smoking bar.
You gotta be careful you don't set the woods on fire.
There's also just,
For
you know,
animals,
concerns I have from enforcement, you know, the health department has been called for air quality concerns and housing subdivisions, et cetera.
yeah.
So the biggest concern, and I think the greatest argument for not allowing smoking in an area where you have employees, is you are subjecting individuals to secondhand smoke. And they work there, and you could say, go work elsewhere, but not everybody has a choice on where they're employed. So I just concerned about the long-term health for those employees that are not choosing to actively smoke, but maybe need to work there for earning income. The other concern I have is we have a lot of strip malls in the town of Northborough. I know you spoke in the past that there was a smoking bar in one location, and it may have worked fine in that location. So even if you're not concerned about the employees, my concern is from sort of that air quality health aspect. If we have a strip mall and one unit decides to be the smoking bar, and it might be the unit right next to your local convenience store, somewhere your kids are gonna be walking by with, picking up the pizza and smelling smoke and seeing smoking, you know, I just have concerns about how it could affect, you know, businesses next door. I don't know if other boards or committees would have the ability to regulate that, right? So if it's allowed and we don't have a regulation disallowing it, and they were to go to the ZBA for a permit for a smoking bar, you know, I guess we could try to get at it then, but I just worry, this is a clean, simple tool to just eliminate that concern down the line. Otherwise, I worry about those overlapping uses or the exposure of children seeing or smelling smoke in a social setting. I think it gives the wrong image of what we want in Northborough. I mean, I imagine you could find a perfect scenario and to say it's the old barbecue place and it's all a standalone building, but we don't get to pick where people propose to
No.
put these locations. And that's one of the long-term concerns I would have.
It was the employees as well that drove the past. It's the same thing, same arguments. But that's how they handled it, with the negative smoke, the negative airflow was called. Lisa, you have anything to add about smoking bars in Northborough?
You know, I don't think I can add anything more than I already did.
Yeah.
You know, it sets the wrong image for our town, and the image is, you know, we want our community to be healthy. We have, I don't know what the percentage of elementary, middle, and high schoolers are, but they see all of that, and how are they perceiving that? Oh, it's okay, when you're an adult, you can go to a smoking bar, you know, and it's just,
Yeah,
you
that's
know, when you
true.
think about the social ecological model, we're not really doing well by our town by having smoking bars, so.
It's kind of a double whammy between the smoking and the bar. You're really setting a great example for the kids.
Well, you can drink in moderation, but smoking
I
in moderation
understand.
is not as.
Well, you
it's
can,
not
you can go in and smoke a cigar.
It's not recommended anymore since the 1960s Surgeon General report, so. It's good to keep that in mind. They did used to recommend smoking.
I argued
right?
against
Prior
it
to
then.
that.
Yeah. Well, I understand where the board would go on that one.
And
I'm old enough to remember the smoking bar. It was owned by Bucky Rogers,
Yeah,
right? It was down, the park is there now, I think, that's the spot. There was a big home there. And then they had the other one, I never went to the other
The
one.
Havana House. Is that what it
The
was?
Havana House,
It was here when I moved in. So, on
it was a
the,
stinky place. And there's another one, just for a side note. There's a place in Worcester, I think it's Mike's. It's right across from the DCU, if you're walking through the back side of the DCU. It's across the street. And I was going court or something that morning, walking by, and it had to be like 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30. And of course, the place is closed, and I'm on the opposite side of the street, and I could smell it from, from there. And I was like, oh, man,
Worcester has almost half of the smoking bars
it was
in the
stinky.
state, and there's 26 of them.
Wow.
I think Worcester has 9.
Yeah.
Springfield has probably about 9.
What a stinky place.
And then the rest are smattered.
and they go after communities with low socioeconomic status, and it really targets people that don't know better, and it's really sad.
And smoking bars are the only type of tobacco vendor in the state where flavored tobacco products are now allowed to be sold. So you can go and buy a grape cigar or whatever, but it's for on-site consumption. So if somebody smokes Newport menthols and they go into a smoking bar and they buy a pack of Newport menthols, technically they're supposed to sit there and
Right.
smoke all 20 of them. Or throw them out at, $12 a pack.
So they have these hookah bars. I've never been, I don't know anything about them. Is that what we're talking
That's considered a
about?
smoking bar,
Is those in Worcester as well? They must
Yeah.
be.
yeah.
Anyone ever go to one?
No.
No, me either. Anybody in this room ever go to the hookah bar? All right, we can move on, I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna raise my hand.
Aha!
the next category is regulating individual cigar sale pricing. They're certainly all allowed to be sold on a single and individual basis, but the suggestion by the state is to regulate dollar value to them. So the suggested from the MHOA retail model was $2.90 for a single, so a package of 2 would be $5.80. All meant to discourage youth use. During my inspections with the MHOA representative recently, all of our current retailers are at or above that level already, so it would be prohibitive to bring that forward.
That's business friendly, they get to keep the extra money. It doesn't go to the state.
We're dictating what they can sell, what they can't sell, even though it's a legal product. But, I understand it, I suppose. How does that, so what's it, minimum $5 now? What did you say, $5 and?
$5.80 for a
Where are
pack
we
of
on
2.
this page?
Page 10 of 18.
It's $2.90 for a single and $5.80 for a multiple pack. And when Boston instituted this, probably 13, 14 years ago, we saw a huge decrease in youth purchasing cigars because they were buying them for 50 cents a piece.
Right.
So all of a sudden, a skinny little Black and Mild that they got for 50 cents is now up to $2.50. They're not gonna
No, they're not gonna.
buy it.
So now we're moving it to 580.
No, for two.
580 for a multi-pack, so two
That's for
for
Right.
580.
So it's
Okay, I
not
see
very
that,
far off
290.
from Michael, what they're already selling, so that would maybe only impact by a few cents, so we're,
Okay.
Yeah, so they're self-regulated.
Note my position, but I will accept that. Anyone else have anything to say about that one? Okay,
The next few subjects are just getting our current our new regulations in line with the state rules that have been in place already for years, flavored tobaccos and nicotine content in electronic vaping products. The prohibition on the sale of blunt wraps in Northborough had already been on the books, which is continuing on with what had already been decided upon. The section on coupon redemption is added, but it's nothing new, it's all adopting the state laws as well. Just going through all the way down through, pretty much all the way down to section T, which just begins on page 13, which is the only other section we need to discuss in terms of the violations. We had some proposals when we presented the regulations to you. We were going to adopt maybe some different fine structure, but council came back with their recommendations. So, just to recap so everyone's aware, back a couple pages, I'm sorry, where is it? I apologize. Page 15 describes all the different violations of the laws. So there's the section on the left are the state laws, and the section on the right would be our laws. So it's a state requirement in terms of what the fine structure is for violations of state law. Would be $1,000 for the first violation, $2,000 for the second violation, $5,000 for the third violation. And those would go with various permit suspensions as well, which were added on page 16.
okay.
And then a violation to the local regulations, we had discussed, there was a fine structure of a first violation of 100, second violation 200, third violation 300, or a suggestion could be to do 300 across the board. Town council has suggested of 100 for the first offense, 200 for the second offense, 300 for the third offense.
So we keep the local as is, for the local violations as is. And then we're just
So
talking.
the fine structure pretty much stays the same
Right.
in both.
But no suspensions anymore?
The suspensions is on page 16.
Okay, that's gonna come later.
its own category.
The council rewrote that section and now it's its own category.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, which one?
Under violations 1A.
Violations
According to the state,
Yep,
that needs to be shall.
yes, yep. Council has actually suggested deleting that entire sentence. So it's a inferred shall, I guess you could say. It says the following penalties apply. In the case of a first violation, the fine of $1,000. That work? It's an implied shall.
I just want to summarize quickly, we had a little trouble making sense of town councils, because it looked like they really tore it all apart. But what they really did, they broke it into 3 discrete sections. So it's, the following state fine shall apply, the next section, local, and then talks about penalties. So although it looks like they struck full sections, they just were really relocated into 3 distinct sections. So especially on page 16, if you want to pick up there, Michael, you see all of that paragraphs, like 2 through 7 were struck.
Yeah.
However, they were just reinserted slightly, if you want to walk them through, Michael, the section 3 picking up on page 16.
Permit suspension or revocation.
So that's where it is.
I'm not sure what to speak to. They just reworded it and rewrote it different ways.
Right.
Yeah. Only question I have actually for Sarah then that I should have asked before. If you're selling to a minor, is there a requirement specifically for that, for a first violation, for suspension?
The difference between a sale to a minor, sorry, the difference between a sale to a minor and, let's say, a sale of flavored products to an adult is that they both get a $1,000 fine the first time, but the sale to a minor also gets a permit suspension and that's up at the discretion of the board, but you should set an amount of time so that you're consistent with your vendors on what you give them for permit suspension, but it's up to 30 days. 0 to 30. Most municipalities are setting it at about 2 or 3 days, because their second suspension, generally it's about 7 days, so they want something kind of in between.
So on page 16, council suggested the first offense of any of the violations would be a permit suspension of up to 3 days.
For a local regulation violation or any violation?
It is unclear to me, I'm not sure the answer to that.
It's not separated out, so it looks to
Could
me
be
that it would
any.
be for any violation.
So the first was what? I'm sorry.
First offense would be up to 3 days. Second offense, up to 7. Third offense, up to 30, and beyond that, you get your permit revoked.
You've already got longer suspensions in your current regulations.
I think,
It had said there was no, for our violation of our local didn't have a suspension, and the second violation was up to 7 days, so unless I'm misreading it.
yeah.
But on, where is it, excuse me? If you hop onto the next page on section 6, they had added the penalty guidelines are only a guide. The board or its agents may use its discretion in determining whether the facts surrounding the violation warrant a penalty, which is more lenient or severe than suggested. So your concern at the last meeting about, say, the humidor being unlocked.
Yeah.
There might be some
Leeway.
leeway on discretion of the board and its agents,
However,
but no.
any tobacco vape sales to a person under the age of 21 is automatic $1,000 suspension, $1,000 fine.
Yeah,
And up to 3 days suspension.
correct. I think Sarah had something to add.
Humidor is considered a self-service display.
So you can't even have a humidor.
You can have one, but it needs to be locked so that customers,
Oh, no, we agreed on that. It
young
was
folks
just,
can't access it.
we knew that was a violation,
Yeah,
but I was saying, it seems awfully harsh to have a $1,000 penalty for a kid who forgets to, an 18-year-old clerk who forgets to lock the humidor.
21? Are we up to
Well-
21with the smoking age?
No,
That's the smoking age. What about the employees, though?
that's what I'm saying.
the employees, there's no regulation on that.
So it could be a 16-year-old selling
Could be.
cigarettes, okay.
Or
So-
sometimes in mom and pops, you get nieces, nephews, kids, whatever, that are younger than 16.
And this is the problem that I have with these regulations is, in a typical pick one, don't say it out loud. They've hired, Sally, who's getting out of, for junior classes at the high school, to go work at one of the stores to sell cigarettes, and she makes a mistake. She sells it. There's a $1,000 fine and, up to a 3-day suspension.
There's training.
She gets fired. Next year, Joey's, same thing, doesn't sell, but he forgets to lock the humidor. So there's your second violation. Now it's a $2,000 fine, I think, and up to 7-day suspension. He gets fired. You've got, let's say, a corporate entity, like Honey Farms, but not Honey Farms, who owns the store. And they visit there once a month and they try and keep the employees under wraps and that kind of thing. But you can't account, as much as you yell at these people, you beat it into them, so to speak. This is the law, this is what you're gonna follow, you don't follow, you're gonna get fired. And then you get Joey coming in, oh, all right, here you go, oh, sorry, you're fired. The store's out, and I'm not a corporate, but let's say a mom and pop is now out $2,000 and up to 7 days, which is another probably $2,000 worth of inventory sales loss, because it's very difficult to run these employees, just like it is with the restaurants. And, you tell them over and over, keep the hand sanitizer up to speed. I would say they never do it. It's a constant battle to get your employees to follow the rules. And I think that personally, I don't mind the rules as much as I mind the rather exorbitant fines. I
Well,
think
the
the
state
fines,
set those fines, so
and
you
we
can
can't get around them?
talk to your legislators
And that's it?
about that.
Then
That's it.
I will be
There's no-
quiet.
There's no wiggle room on the fines, yeah.
I'm going to the State House tomorrow with my sign, because I think they're exorbitant.
They are for
They
some,
are.
for some group of retailers, but not for others. Like you look at the big retailers like Honey Farms
A lot of dough.
or Cumberland Farms, you know, they can absorb those problems a little easier than the smaller mom and pops like Lowe's, if Lowe's had that incident. But at the end of the day, anybody who owns or runs a business knows it's 100% on them to make sure the person who's up in the front running the store knows exactly what they're doing and they're doing it right. And if I trust you to run my business and you aren't running it right, well, shame on me for not paying attention.
Does it? Yeah,
And
I
there's
get it.
training available. There's
I
free
get it, but-
training available online in English and Spanish for retail clerks. There's training available for store owners and managers. You know, when Michael went out with my inspector, they do an inspection. Also involved in that is some merchant education,
Yeah.
things like that. So it's not like, here's your business, good luck, and I hope you don't violate any laws. We offer them a lot of assistance, short of somebody manning the store for them.
Yeah. That's good to know.
And to further that point, you know, Michael and the inspector that was sent out from MHOA with Sarah's inspector, they carry the signs. They're not looking to say, gotcha, you don't have the sign, but it's in my bag. They give them that sign and ask them to sign it. Like, just like Michael with any food inspection, the goal is always, can I correct this while I'm on site?
Yep.
Right? And
Right.
so, I know the biggest one that we feel is irritating, like, you know, a little onerous is the signage. Like, which of the 12, there's a lot of signs, I don't know exactly how many, but those are things we're there to assist. Michael or the inspector carries copies. That's not the gotcha we're looking for. You know, I think the gotcha is, are you selling to underage? You know, do you have a self-service display where a child could reach in and snag a tobacco product? So it's the bigger items, the easy things we address on site.
I think it's the vaping is really what, going with the underage. I know I'm doing a lot of speaking this evening, but the vaping goes with the underage thing, I think, really. So if we're regulating those two categories, then that's really what we're looking for, I think. The
Yeah,
flavor and the.
there is some discretion. I mean, I think, you know, I know when I train inspectors like Michael and I talk about humidors and how you remedy situations like that, you negotiate and you say, okay, how long will it take you to get a lock on this humidor if it doesn't have a lock on it? And if the retailer says, oh, I could probably have a lock on it in 6 months, but yet driving up, you notice a hardware store 3 doors down, you work on that and you negotiate that. And you go back, you check, and it's got a lock on it and everything's fine. But you go for another inspection 6 months, a year later, and it's not locked, then it's probably time to issue the fine.
I have nothing.
You moved through a lot of the worst of this. It continues, I think the other thing that was left open, Michael's really talked through all of it. All these purple changes at the end was really from council reorganizing. And then really the effective date. If the board were to pass it, what would be a reasonable effective date? It's always easy to start the new fiscal year, and we're, you know, far enough off to post the notice if the board were to pass the regulation tonight or a future date.
July 1st.
Pressure. You know, it's nice to start a new calendar year and send out permit renewals, and the updated copies of the regulations would be ideal timing from our office standpoint.
When is that? July 1st or January 1st? Or
Our
December?
fiscal year is July 1, our permits renew at the end of the year. They're like a calendar year.
Are you saying the end of the year, or are you saying?
I would do July
July
1st, because
1st.
that gives us time to notify, that's sort of our calendar with the Board of Health, to document our goals, objectives, things moving.
So the only thing we really have as far as, is number one, determining there's been a violation, right? And number two, not so much the financial penalty as much as what are we gonna do about the permit penalty? Right? Determine that there's been a violation. Michael comes in and says, oh, these you know, their humidor was unlocked 7 times, a place next door, they had a lock sale, they didn't bother.
Well, it sounds like council's given you recommendation on
Right,
that,
council's here, they're there to support us. We have many other local boards of health, Michael and I have called around. Southborough recently issued a fine, they send a simple letter, you know, Sarah's office has provided that to us, we've had town council take a look at it. You send the letter and you know what, they're gonna renew in the next year, so they'll have to pay that fee by the time they go to renew. You know, are we gonna be there knocking on the door every day and take him to court, you know, simply just, you know, you can.
No, I don't
Push
think
it,
we'll have
but
that
it's an
problem.
annual renewal, so, and what we've heard in Southborough and Northbridge recently issued some fines, is that they paid right away. They walked through the door and paid that week, so it doesn't seem like
right?
the finding's really the issue. The hardest part is just having the regs and following the process and getting out there and completing the inspections.
I'm just trying to figure out what the role of the board is. So, number one, we have a fact finding.
Yep.
Still in fact finding.
No, Michael's your agent, so he's
So-
authorized to
Only,
issue.
only if there's an
We-
appeal.
Unless there's an appeal or they
Okay,
request
well,
it.
so we just come.
We'll keep it out of your hands unless they
As
say.
the health department, I'm authorized to levy the local fines without question. And there's
And
a
this-
part of the regulation that designates us as the enforcement arm.
For the state,
Of the
right.
state.
All right.
So the authorities directly from a certain section of the state.
So unless they appeal,
You won't know.
we don't, we'll hear about it, but we don't know about it.
It won't become a hearing unless they appeal.
I'm good with that.
I can live with that.
Make you feel better, knowing that you're not.
Not really.
Fine then.
It's, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand the whole smoking thing, it's terrible, but it's just a weighing out business versus, you know,
Cancer.
cancer.
So I
Yes,
guess
thank you.
The only question that we need to finalize is how many permits you want.
They said 15,
15 is what we're
He's
gonna
already
do?
said
They said 15.
I didn't hear the official.
Well, the other two who aren't here would probably say less, so we're in good shape. I'll
Yeah,
take
they
what I
would
can
say
get.
yes.
They
They
would say-
would say less, you're
They-
right.
Of course they would
They
say
would
less.
be like,
The two
3.
docs.
Revoke all the others.
Yeah, we don't need any. All right, well, that's
I,
fair enough.
What do you think?
I have,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
have a couple.
Yes.
I think I'm just trying to figure out where, if anything that I had made notes on has already been changed.
Give us a try, we might know. If you go to your original
Okay,
notes, we might be able to
so-
mention.
Okay, so on the new version, on page 9, the maximum number of tobacco product sales permits. So we got 15, then there's this wait list. If, is there anything in there, like the ABCC regs used to have something about you can't have common ownership of 2 different corporations owning 2 liquor licenses. Like liquor licenses had to only be owned by one entity with one group of people, so as to avoid a behind-the-scenes monopoly. There's nothing in there like that, right?
No.
We
No.
we care
Not
about
aware.
that so much?
I don't know, I'm aware of that being an issue here.
Okay. And then, if my permit is, if my permit's revoked, then it can go to that guy who's on the waiting list.
Correct.
Well, I bet they would probably argue to appeal that, you know what I mean, to follow the process if it was
Right.
you know, so I think if we were, well, I don't know who will be in place, as a health director, if they're gonna revoke, we're gonna revoke a permit, I would bring that to the Board of Health to revoke. We have the ability to fine, we would bring it to the Board of Health, and I think there would be a discussion at that time. But we understand if we revoke this, you know, I think the board can make that decision as to, are we moving to the wait list, or are we gonna allow them a certain set period of time to make amends and reapply? I mean, at that point, revocation of the permit is gonna come before the board, and you would consider if there was a cap and it was met, and how that would impact that business. That would, procedurally, I believe that's how I would handle revoking
Okay.
a permit.
If it gets revoked, it means it's back in the gene pool. Are we now, by limiting the number, kind of like what happened with the alcohol licenses? By limiting the number, are we increasing the value of that permit?
They're
So
non-transferable.
the non-transferable?
Non-transferable, the way it's written, so you can't sell it to someone.
I can't sell my
It's
business
not a,
to somebody else?
You can sell your business to somebody else, but the new owner just nearly needs to apply for the permit.
But you have this, well, let's say you have a waiting list, though. And that was like my next question. So let's say you have a waiting list,
Okay.
and so if I'm selling my business to Glenn, and Liz is on the waiting list, he wants to apply for my permit, but technically, she should be the one to get it.
That's a good question. I don't.
Unless, could we write in a provision to state that in the case of a change of ownership, you know, that preference would be given, they would be given preference on because the use and the investment of the property is a real concern. Someone has set up a workspace, they've outfitted it, it has a value as a business.
Right.
Could we add something to the section regarding the cap to state in cases of change of ownership for an existing location? I'm sure we could put something in there to address that concern.
Yeah, I think in that sale of business section, it can stay as it is, but I think if you clarify that,
The cap.
that
That they wouldn't get-
as a singular exception,
they
that
wouldn't get-
permit can be transferred to the new owner, can be assigned to the new owner and not to the next person on the waiting list,
Mhm.
as a singular exception to the rule.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Sarah?
I'm gonna check on that just to make sure.
I think that's something we could find a way to work with legal to address in the section
Huh?
regarding the cap. I think it's a good point.
Excellent question.
Okay. Cigar sales. Is this section under G, is it still G? Yep, G, section 3. Is that like wholesalers? Like, why do we, it looks like this like singular and, the singular sale and the twin pack sale doesn't apply to an entity engaged in the business of selling or distributing for commercial purposes to another person or entity. Who's contemplated under that? Like, who's that actually apply to?
It's an excellent question.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Well, so under cigar sales, it says that the dollar prohibition, the value prohibition on singular and
Right.
twin packs doesn't apply to a person or entity engaged in the business of selling or distributing cigars for commercial purposes to another person or entity engaged in the business of selling or distributing cigars for commercial purposes with the intent to sell or distribute outside the boundaries of the town. So what's an example of what that would be?
Wholesaler?
You know, like a traveling cigar
No.
salesman?
And we don't
Well,
permit
a traveling
wholesale.
cigar salesman can't sell in Northborough without a permit,
Okay,
but, a wholesaler, it basically says it doesn't apply to a wholesaler,
Who permits, but we don't permit wholesalers, that's by the state.
right?
So I think that section might be more applying to the state, because we don't
Stateside.
issue permits for wholesalers, that's a
Okay.
state permit.
Okay. Alright. And then in the next section, H, I think that at the end of, third line down, where it says as defined herein, should that comma be a period?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Good catch. Thank you.
And then I have a note here. So for H and I, where they receive documentation from the manufacturer regarding the nicotine or the flavored tobacco or
Yes.
whatever it is that do they need to keep those documents on hand and make them available at the time of an inspection?
Yes, they do. When that first went into effect, the flavor ban and the nicotine bans, they were all sent letters from the state detailing all of that specifically. Soon after we did our last inspection, I sent them a copy of that original letter, along with other documentation showing them what they need to have. So they're fully aware of that, and they should have been
Okay.
in 2020, 21, whenever it came out.
Okay. Weapons addressed. Addressed. Under R, prohibition of smoking in the public places. I note there's some private schools in town. I think we have the ability to also identify them as well. Is that something we want to do?
I didn't consider any revisions to this. This was taken word for word directly from prior.
Okay.
That's a good point.
It's a
We have
good-
daycares, we have small private schools, I'm thinking like Fitzgerald Institute, those sort of things.
yeah.
Yeah, so the caption is prohibition of smoking in public places, but then it says
places.
on the following properties in the town of Northborough, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's only gonna be limited to town-owned properties. So I guess I would just consider adding,
Right, because those are just the public
yeah,
buildings.
is educational
But is there a
facility-
requirement that you can't walk from Honey Farms to Monty's Pizza smoking a cigarette on that sidewalk? Can do that,
Because you're
right?
within a public way with a business.
I don't know the rule to that.
I think place has to be defined. Public property.
No, that was,
There-
that part was this part,
Definition of
so
properties?
really the state's model regulation doesn't have the prohibition on this smoking in public places. A lot of towns have it as two regulations. But Northborough's original version on the books, back however many years ago, Glenn,
Way
two thousand
back
sixteen,
when I was
you
in
had
high school.
merged it into one, so rather than to like overly change, we inserted
Yeah,
the same section, so this was inserted word for word. So regarding moving forward, I think we have a couple of choices. We can fix that language, or we could pull it out and do it as a standalone smoking in public places regulations, which I think would be a lot cleaner, because there's some great model examples of those that are just better
Okay.
standalone. Because a lot of people are gonna think this is about your sale of tobacco, not smoke, your smoke-free
yeah.
places. What do you, I guess, Sarah, what do you see most often? Two regulations?
Two regulations, and I can send Michael a copy of the template for the smoke-free workplace.
I'm sorry to make more work for you, Michael.
No?
Smoke-free
I was trying
workplace.
to make less work for you by incorporating it into one,
Well, I
but
appreciate
if the board's open to a second set of regulations soon, then I will happily redraft.
Yeah.
Yes.
fine.
Will
I'm-
smoke-free
important.
workplace cover what you were just brought up? Or there
let's-
could
We can
be,
make sure it does.
It
I
does,
believe.
that's just.
you could have a volunteer basketball game at somewhere.
If it's a basketball game on, in school property, then
That's a school property, but let's say it's, I don't know,
an outdoor.
St. John's
basketball
Gym,
game-
I'm thinking like in Clinton, they have St. John's Gym,
Yeah,
right? It's a private place. Would that get covered? It's not a school.
probably not.
Yeah.
I would think that St. John's would have a policy themselves of no smoking on campus or whatever,
Well, St. John's is just a church.
just a church. They probably
Not
have a
just a church,
policy of no
it's the
smoking,
church.
no smoking in the building, no smoking within, 20 feet of entrances or whatever, I bet you they do.
Yeah, but,
Otherwise, people would be sitting in the stands smoking at a basketball game.
well, I used to work at the courthouse, and I can't tell you how many times I would go into the women's room, and the court reporters would be in there smoking it up, and I'm like,
Really?
yes, really. Jane Brown. Did you know Jane Brown? Jane Brown, all the time.
Well, we
But
just started,
it's-
I believe we just started a case in Athol, I believe it was, that had a private club, like the Lithuanian club, that is a private club that had smoking, but they were not allowed to.
Right.
Because members of the public could have gone in there as guests of the club or things like that. So even though it's a
That's what's
private club and private property, they were allowed to maintain the smoking
Yeah, they
ban.
went in there and got their $2 beers and were able to smoke, and
We used to have that. I don't think we have that anymore. Because I remember it came up with the AMVets.
yeah. So
We
if you're
said, let them
truly,
smoke if they want to smoke.
if it's truly a private club and you can only get in with a membership,
Right.
Right.
then that's one thing, but the problem in that case was that they were letting other members of the general public in as so-called guests, and then you could bring in your 50 guests if you wanted to.
Right.
So, you just had to know somebody's first name. So it was,
Can you smoke at the AMVets now? Here in town? I know you said you could.
I don't
If I recall, I think we were like okay with that. Because of where it was and who they were.
I don't know.
So check on that.
Can look
So
into that.
if we were looking at this, Michael and or Sarah, the sections that are unique to Uxbridge that we inserted, is it just section R? Or
Might also-
Northborough, what did I say? I'm still back in the day. So is it just section R, sorry, prohibition?
R and S.
I'd say S also.
Because they incorporate into the smoke-free environment and
Right.
workplace, so
I
R
would
and S.
recommend, I also wouldn't want to make major changes to smoking rules in this town without giving our Board of Selectmen and other key town departments the ability to look over that.
Yep.
I'm thinking from the HR, so my recommendation to the board would be striking sections R and S. And for the town to then look to the Board of Health to just adopt a standalone smoke-free workplace regulation, rather than to
Yeah.
muddy the waters here. I don't know if that changes our title, Michael or Sarah, at all from the model regulations, or did we feel
It
like,
says use, but I think, excuse me, I think it
is that
covers.
the standard?
That was the title of the
Restricting
original one.
sale.
That's the title from the state
Okay, so that's,
sample.
that's the same, and
Yep.
then the board, and I would recommend a separate hearing notice and a separate draft, if we wanted to
Okay.
separate those.
Yep.
So striking, without adding a period on one page, Michael,
Yep,
and
I got it.
striking of section R and S.
And when Michael gets the template, you'll have other, ways that you can choose to prohibit smoking at,
Okay.
like, all municipal fields, municipally owned fields, beaches, if you have any municipal beaches, and things like that.
Okay, great.
Now we're getting the outdoors.
Hey, I'm all for it. It's terrible when you're at the beach and you feel like
Oh,
you've been smoking all day.
We'll pull in the doctors for that one.
But we don't really have
Go to
any
New
lovely
Hampshire.
beaches here in town, so
No.
we're all set
Go to the
there.
beach in
Oh,
New
I
Hampshire.
know, I
Live
don't
free or
like
die.
smelling it.
The big ashtray.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, when
But-
you're like walking around with your kids and they're little and they're picking up seashells and cigarette butts.
Yeah.
It's a great collection.
I myself used to be a lifeguard back in the day, and part of my daily routine was picking up cigarette butts. I understand.
If it helps, I can speak a lot of this firsthand. I started smoking when I was 13, and I smoked a pack a day till I was 32 years old, so.
Yep.
I know firsthand how it started and the effects it can have on people. So.
Oh, one of those ex-smokers, that explains a lot.
I'm an ex-smoker too. I started when I
I'm
was
an
12
ex-smoker
and
as
quit
well,
when I was
yes.
24, just, but you quit for a reason. If you're
Yeah,
an
I
ex-smoker,
couldn't-
you quit for a reason, right?
Couldn't afford that anymore. I still can't
So
breathe.
here you are, trying to advocate for more smoking in
No, I'm
town.
not, I'm just sort of,
More ability to buy it, more ability to smoke it.
I'm all for freedoms,
I am
as long as it doesn't hurt anyone.
too.
Like this does.
This is it's the second.
Well, that's why I'm giving you, I'm acknowledging your fine,
Acquiescing.
Loudly.
acquiescing to your fine points being made here this evening.
Teresa, were there more notes?
That's what I
No,
was just
that
gonna
was it,
ask.
thank
Okay.
you,
Yes.
that was
Good.
it, thank
Those
you,
are
I
good points.
appreciate you indulging me on that.
Great. No, those are good, fine points.
For a point of order, I would say we could, the next steps would be to close the
Right.
public hearing, we've met that requirement. I feel like the regs are fairly clean, other than striking those two sections and adding a period. And council has reviewed, so the board could look to make a motion. So close the public hearing, and then if you'd like to vote on the regulations tonight
As amended.
as amended.
Sure.
Yes.
What about the other two?
You know what they're gonna say.
I feel beaten down here this evening. All right, Teresa, will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
I second it.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then we'll pick that up.
Do you
Are we
wanna
all
vote
done?
tonight?
So we'll make a motion
Oh, I see,
to-
then we're gonna have a second,
to
That would
vote.
be a
Okay.
whole nother reg, a whole nother posting.
it's gonna be a second regulation? Or incorporated into this?
I would recommend standalone, that's how most towns do it. It's
Really?
just much clearer, it's also clearer from like a
Oh.
HR town administration, like between the schools, that they don't wanna read through all of this to get to what am I allowed to do on the school property, what am
okay.
I allowed, versus it's better to educate, like building users of this is the, smoke.
Well, we've certainly made a lot of advancements this evening.
So are we gonna vote?
We're gonna vote
We're gonna
on the
vote?
regulations.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Right. So, I move to accept the regulation of the Northborough Board of Health restricting the sale and use of tobacco products as proposed, along with edits, so recorded from this evening's review. with an effective date of July 1st, 2023.
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Michael, good job, Michael.
I appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was good. That was some good work.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice job, Michael.
What time you after next?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Thank you
you
so
for
much
being
for
here.
coming. We really appreciate it.
Wow, that's,
We appreciate your
You were very helpful, so don't feel
Yes.
like it was a wasted trip, you were very helpful.
I'll be back for the smoke-free workplace.
Excellent.
you know, that'd be,
Excellent,
So, anytime.
thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
Thank you for your help.
Safe travels.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Oh, we're not ready though.
anything else?
Yep.
Oh, we do have other stuff. The Greater Boroughs Partnership for Health update. Got a grant increase.
So the Board of Health had to, all local boards of health in Massachusetts that are part of the Public Health Excellence Grant Program had to complete a phase 3 assessment. Do you remember doing the surveys, maybe like last fall?
Yeah,
So after that review process and scoring criteria were presented with a card or review of the findings as compared to other municipalities. Overall, our performance rate was around 79% across all criteria. That was pretty much dead in line with the other individuals in the state. Don't forget the assessment was both looking back in time to pre-COVID, pre-increased staffing as well. So that's something the state is most likely gonna continue doing. But based off those results and a review of like the per capita, per each PHE region, the state awarded, I believe across the board, all of the PHE regions, such as the Greater Borough Partnership for Health, an increase in fiscal year 24 funding. So the core grant that are in our current second year is $300,000 a year. They've added an additional $160,000 for next year.
That's fine.
So we are busy working on a work plan. Michael's been working on it, Erin, Isabella, on really, okay, what are we gonna do as a region? We don't have a lot of clarity about that extra 160 is gonna be always available, right? So when we received the original $300,000 core grant, we were told it's really a 12-year grant, you know, as long as you're continuing to meet, that's really sustainable funding. And that's why Northborough is the host, went so far as to hire Michael Seeger as a permanent full-time staff. This 160, we're still waiting for a little more guidance, but we are developing that budget right now, and that money is in a, you know, the contact tracing grant we have for 160 is in addition to this 460,000. And then even maybe in addition to if we were to get the Drug-Free Community Award. So lots of funding. This funding for PHE and that contact tracing grant is really for the 4 towns. So the advisory board, Dilip is, you know, listed as their second voting member. We're meeting to develop those work plans. I think we have a meeting in 2 weeks' time, Michael. The Greater Boroughs Partnership for Health.
17th.
So we'll be developing that work plan. Our plan is to move Isabella's epidemiologist position into the PHE grant, which is a more secure funding source. I think that position's been key. She's been a great resource. It's great to have that staffing. So we're gonna look to use the additional money and move the staff on contact tracing over to the PHE grant, which builds a long-term sustainable staff model, which is working right now. We think it's working really well. And now we're gonna be getting more creative of how do we use that leftover contact tracing money. So we're looking to all different ideas, possibly doing our own community health assessment, possibly even looking to bring in a third party to help us digitize Board of Health files. We're looking to expand maybe into a maternal health program and supporting new moms in town, offering some nursing visits with that, with skilled maternal health nurses. A whole slew of ideas, and we'll be opening those to you as well. If you know of any unmet needs in the community, there are key requirements as to what we can do with the grant, you know. I can't buy us a new place or office or replace the carpets, but relative to public health, we're looking to improve some public health communication, new website with Greater Boroughs, better access to resources. Michael and the nurses have been working on some standard operating procedures, so we're doing a lot of overhaul, lots of ideas. I'll try to get those before you. But as we develop this work plan, I know that fiscal year is right away. We just received this notification about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So we haven't had a lot of time. We'll be formulating those ideas, but the state's very flexible. So if we come up with an idea and maybe we don't have a vendor to do the work, or there's not a lot of interest, we do have the ability to reallocate during that fiscal year, so. More to come, so lots of good work there, from the staff, and we'll be diligently planning out. It's really, you know, the town just survived town meeting and our budget season, you know, with the town, and so the grants are just a little delayed in that, you know, it comes down from the state, so we're sort of like 3 months behind the town as we get ready for the grant. I think last year our budget was to do the state 1 year into the fiscal year. So it was like almost retroactive. So, but we're getting there, so we'll definitely be sharing those updates with you.
Still there.
Still there, yeah.
That's
The
great
check is in the
news.
mail.
Yep.
Good. Any questions on that?
No,
That's wonderful. Be Well Northborough.
So the big kickoff, or the second summer carnival event, is scheduled for last day of school, June 22nd. So no, we just want to again encourage members, if you have any interest in attending or like more information, we'll definitely have a health department table. Our nurses will be there talking about Narcan, fentanyl strips, what harm reduction is. You know, inviting people to attend either request a one-on-one training, and then we'll have our free sunscreen giveaways. The DPW just today picked up all the sunscreen dispensers we purchased through Be Well with the Impact Melanoma Project. So you're gonna see 3 of those out at Ellsworth that will be there in time for the park event, 1 at Assabet as well. So those projects are coming together, but yeah, just encourage you guys to attend that event.
Do you need volunteers?
We will. We were just saying, we last year, we're hoping it's gonna happen again. We had Wegmans that had donated just great healthy snacks and bananas and clementines and apple slices. And so, yeah, we need sort of fun volunteers who wanna help man the free food station. Or rec department was overwhelmed by popcorn filling of bags last year. So yeah, if you have time, it's a really fun event, and it's on the 22nd. It's only 1 to 4. So it's not a huge time commitment.
Should be able to fit that in,
Yeah, it was really fun last year.
at least part of that.
Yeah, so feel free.
I volunteer, Teresa. Very enthusiastic popcorn.
We get asked a bunch of things, and can't always do it.
No, that's
You know.
good.
And the front freebies this year to give away, we were really trying to do the whole like sun safety, impact melanoma. Health department will be doing the sun's cancer awareness program. But there'll be sunglasses distributed by the library at their wheel, a giveaway wheel, and I think beach balls, and thinking outdoor and active sort of thing, so it should be fun.
All down at the
Ellsworth.
Ellsworth.
Yep. Well, also this year we expanded a little to include some of our civic, you know, organizations in town that provide some health and human services. So I think like different clubs were invited, like Trails Committee, for example, is a great group, you know, just so
Yeah.
people can make those connections. Junior Women's Club, there's some great volunteer opportunities and other work they do. So you'll see a few clubs, but we're not including businesses. So I know we've had a lot of businesses that wanted to be part of it, or ice cream trucks that wanted to pull out. And this is really a town event, and then some of our key partners, nonprofit groups that we've worked with. That's it.
Wonderful. Any other business that we haven't discussed this evening?
I took the CPR AED course, and she was really, really good.
Oh, that's
It was an excellent selection. It was a really good course. My daughter, 16-year-old daughter, took it also, and I think it's great that the town offered it, and the cost was full.
Yeah,
We should have that more.
So we have a long-term plan, so that was partially funded through Be Well.
Yeah.
We got approval from the state to have all of our nurses, our contracted nurses, trained in CPR. And we also have permission from the state to use our contract tracing money to purchase 12 dummies,
Oh, good.
both infant and adult. And now that we have a revolving fund that was approved at town meeting, we're hoping to offer monthly, at least monthly, CPR, discounted CPR courses for the public.
That's
So,
fantastic.
I think, and once we're in, so the cost of the course would be something just to really cover the card. You know, you have to get the certification card that gets emailed, but the nurses' time, you know, we have the nurses. If we have such a demand, we're also gonna have 2 of our per diem nurses hopefully trained, so we could just pay them per diem through that grant, and would be able to definitely continue with that $30 a class kind of rate, and then it would just keep going. So I think it's fabulous. You know, the hardest part is having the dummies, and we're getting approval through the fire department to get the high-tech ones, just so you can see when you're doing your compressions, you know, they light up and all that. So we're in that ordering process right now, And I think we can sustain it over time. Great. You know, with our existing staff, it's really those one-time purchases, and the library has been fabulous to obviously give us that space for free.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
assist us with registrations, we'll have to figure that out, that element, so I might need to work with Ally a bit with rec, but our goal is to continue, so I'm really glad to hear that was positive.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
talked to a
great.
lot of people that said, oh, I took that course, so it sounds like it really well received.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She was good.
How long was the course? Like,
It was just a couple hours,
yeah,
I think an hour and 45 minutes, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you save somebody's life, it's definitely worth that time.
it's
Well,
excellent.
it's worth it even if you don't see.
Even if you,
At least you consider trying.
Yeah, at least you tried.
At least you tried,
No,
right?
yeah.
You weren't helpless. So.
oh, that's really good. Minutes, I don't see them.
I just realized we didn't have those printed, and I think we're gonna have the same game of not maybe having a quorum on those minutes.
Okay.
We can,
We looked at them last. I
can
know, we
always
don't
have
have
them
them in our
next
old
time.
packets. No one's asking. The good news is there's a draft available if anybody requests.
April, May, June, we have 3 months to do it, right? So we still have another month.
And the drafts are available, so typically, I think open meeting laws, if someone requests, you gotta
Yeah.
produce the draft minutes within 10 days, so. Sorry. Yeah, I see Mary Angela, all that extra stuff you pulled. The Southborough ones, those are all set. Oh, and what was that date, Angie?
we did that, that was that.
I think it was just that we didn't have a quorum. Tuesday, March 21st. To vote. Yep. Oh, so you have the two then. They're both here. So Tuesday, March 21st, present was Dilip, Lisa, and Swati. We don't have a quorum to vote. And then for the joint meeting for Algonquin, for the two boards of health present from,
That was for the field, I thought we did those already.
no, that was Glenn, Teresa, Swati, and Lisa. So we do have a quorum, but I felt that we didn't have a quorum on the January, oh no, we did vote those, you're right. So it was April 11th we're looking for, and.
Want me to go print them real quick?
I think we can wait. No one's requested. I don't think there were any, I don't remember that meeting having any key votes. And that was the more
No, I
recent of
think
them,
that was
so
the
I
one
think
we-
we're okay.
Hashed out these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
good point, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was just last meeting, so, okay. Bring
In
up
that
next meeting.
case,
Motion to adjourn?
yeah,
Second?
Aye.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.